Hey everyone, welcome back to another project in React Native. So in this project, we'll be building a simple threads app in React Native using the Expo framework, and we'll be making use of MongoDB as a backend. And if you find this interesting, please smash the like button and also subscribe for more such content. So let's get started. So firstly, let's look into the demo part of the application. So over here towards my right, we have the first screen being shown where we have different kinds of user posts over here. So for each post, we can pretty much, like the post, dislike the post, and even add a comment to that particular post, just like this. Okay, and coming to the next screen, that is a thread screen. Over here we can pretty much share our post to the home screen. So after that, we have the activity screen where we can see the different kinds of users in this app. So we can follow user and unfollow a user as well. And coming to the profile screen, we have basically the information regarding the user, that is the bio of the user and the number of followers. So currently you're seeing 1 followers because we are using a proper email authentication. So I am using my 2 emails that I have. So for that reason, you're seeing 1 followers over here. So we're going to keep the app as simple as possible, and we'll be doing all the different kinds of implementations required. So if you find it interesting, please smash the like button and let's get started with the project right away. So now the first step is to create an Expo manage project. So let's go do that. So firstly, inside my terminal, I'm going to go into my build folder, and over here I'm going to write Expo init, the project name. So in my case, I'm going to say threads app, and then I'm going to press on enter. So they should ask us to choose a template. So I'm going to choose the first one that is selected as default, the blank template, and then press on enter. So this should install all the JavaScript dependencies and then create as a project structure, that is with the folder name as threads app, and then we're going to go into that particular folder. So let's wait for some time. Okay, so as you can see, our project is ready. So the next step is we're going to go into that particular folder and look into the folder structure. All right, so I'm going to say file, open folder. Firstly, go into my build folder over here, and then the first one. All right, so this is basically the project structure Expo has given us when we initialize the Expo manage project. Okay, so this is the main app.js. So basically we are they're returning a view which contains a text which says open up app.js to start working on your app. All right, so this is the starting point of our application. So now the first step is we're going to run the app. So to do that, I'm going to open up a new terminal over here, and we are currently into the threads app folder. So here I'm going to say Expo start. So this should give us some options to open the app. So we have Android, iOS simulator, and open the app on the web. So in my case, I'm going to use iOS simulator. So I'm going to press on I. So for Android users, you need to press on A. All right. So here I'm going to press on I. So this should take a couple of minutes to install the app on the simulator, and we should just be seeing this text when the app opens up because that's what is there in the main app.js. So let's give it some time. So as you can see, the app is being opened and we are able to see the text at the center part of the screen. Alright, so it is currently at the center part because of the default styling that they've given. That is because of align items of center and justify content of center. So now the next step is we're going to create some folder structure over here. That is one for the screens and the components. So here I'm going to say screens, and one more folder is for our components. All right, so now the next step is we're going to initialize a new project in the backend. All right, so let's head over to Chrome over here and search for mongodb.com. So here we're going to initialize a new project that is threads app, and then we're going to connect it to the front end part. So let's press and sign in. Okay, so now the next step is we're going to press on new project over here, and here you're going to give the project name. Let's say threads app. Okay, so let's give threads project and let's press on next. Okay, so for this project, I'm the current owner, as you can see. So after this, let's press on create project. All right, so now let's press on create and make sure you use the free version, that is M0. And for the other details, I'm going to leave it as default, and I'm going to press on create. So after this, the next step is to choose the username for this. So here I'm going to keep this as a username, and for the password I'm going to keep my name itself, and then I'm going to press on create user. So the next step is IP address. So since this is a tutorial, I'm just going to pass in this IP address. So it's accessible from anywhere, right? So I'm going to press on add entry, and then I'm going to say finish and close. Okay, so press and go to overview. Alright, so now it's going to take in a couple of minutes to initialize our backend. So while this happens, we're going to come into the code over here, create a new folder for the API. So I'm going to say API over here. So now we're gonna go into the new terminal and firstly go into the API folder. So the first step here is to create our package.json. So to do that, I'm gonna press on npm init. So this would ask us a couple of questions. So package name is gonna be API, version is gonna be this one. So description, you can give it anything. And for the other ones, I'm just gonna press on enter. Is this okay? Yes. So as you can see inside the API folder, our package.json is being created. So now the next step is we're going to add some dependencies into the package.json. So let's go do that. So with the help of yarn, I'm going to add some dependencies like body parser. We need express, we need cars, we need access to JSON web token. We also need access to mongoose. We need a node mailer, and we need node mon. Okay, so these are some of the dependencies that we need for this project. So let's press on enter. So all of the dependencies should be installed into our package.json. So as you can see, all of them have been installed. So now the next step is I'm going to create my main index.js file where all the backend code goes into. So here I'm going to say index.js. Okay, so the first step over here is to import the required things. So let's start doing that. So I'm going to say const express equals to require express, const body parser equals to require body parser, const mongoose equals to require mongoose, and then const crypto equals to require crypto. We need access to node mailer as well. So const node mailer equals to require node mailer. So now I'm going to create an instance of an app. So I'm going to say const app equals to initialize express, and I'm going to choose a specific port. So I'm going to choose 3000, and I'm going to initialize my cars equals to require cars, and here I'm going to say app.use of the cars. Okay, so here I'm going to write some more middlewares now. So I'm going to say app.use basically the body parser dot URL encoded, and I'm going to pass in extended as false. And after that, I'm going to say app.use body parser dot JSON, and I'm going to initialize my GWT over here. So const GWT equals to require of the JSON token. Alright, so now the next step is we're going to go into the MongoDB and get the connecting URL. So here, let's press on connect. So we're going to choose a third option, that is MongoDB for VS Code. So copy this piece of URL, and with the help of connect method, we're going to use this, right? So here I'm going to say mongoose.connect. Just copy this, just paste this URL over here and make the changes. So for instead of the password, you need to give the password you had given previously, right? So that is my name itself. And for this, I'm going to provide some options, that is useNewUrlParser. I'm going to set it to be true, and after that I'm going to say use a unified topology. I'm going to set it to be true. Alright, so after connecting, I'm going to apply the then method. It's going to take in a function. So in this case, I'm just going to console.log a message. So I'm going to say connected to MongoDB, and if at all there is any error in connecting, I'm going to catch that error over here. So I'm going to say catch of error. So here I'm going to say console.log error connecting to MongoDB, just like this. Alright, so now the next step is, of course, you have to use the app.listen method. So here I'm going to say app.listen. This is going to take in the port that we've already initialized. So just pass in the port, and over here take in a function, and in this case I'm just going to say console.log server is running on port 3000. Alright, so that's it. So the next step is we're going to initialize the starting point in our script. That is basically we're going to initialize the start script in the package.json over here. So here I'm going to say start. So it's of course going to be nodemon index.js. Alright, so now let's come to the terminal, and to start the app I'm going to press on yarn start. So if at all everything is correct, we should be seeing connected to MongoDB and servers running on port 3000. So let's do yarn start, then press on enter. So as you can see, server is running on port 3000 and connected to MongoDB. So we have successfully connected this app to the MongoDB backend. So the first step is successfully completed. So the next step is, firstly we're going to initialize React navigation, and then we're going to design two screens, that is the login screen as well as the register screen, so that we can switch between both the screens. So firstly let's initialize React navigation. So let's head over to Chrome first and then search for React navigation.org. Let's press on read docs. And over here, firstly, we're going to install React Navigation /native. So copy that piece of code and we're going to paste it into the new terminal, and make sure you install this into the threads app and not into the API folder, right? So after that, we need access to these two things. So copy that piece of code and we're going to paste it right here. All right. And next is come to hello React Navigation and then install the React Navigation /native stack. So paste that code over here, and after that we need access to the bottom tabs, right? So search for React Native bottom tabs, go to the first link, and then we're going to install this one also. So paste it over here. Alright, so we have installed all of the dependencies required for React Navigation. So the next step is I'm just going to create a stack navigator file over here. So here I'm going to say stack navigator.js, okay, RNFES to get the shorthand snippet. So over here inside the stack navigator, firstly we're going to initialize two screens. So let's copy this piece of code, that is the navigation container, and paste it over here. Import navigation container from React Navigation /native. Alright, so we have initialized the first screen, that is stack.screen. So firstly let's create two screens inside of our screens folder. One is the login screen, login screen.js, RNFES to get the shorthand snippet, and then the register screen.js, RNFES to get the shorthand snippet. Save the file and save the file. So over here we're going to initialize the first screen. So instead of component home screen, it's going to be login screen, and the name is going to be login. So similarly for the next one, I'm going to say stack.screen. Our name is going to be, in this case, register, and the component is going to be register screen. So make sure you import register screen from the screens folder just like this, and save the file. So now let's go into the app.js, and I think I forgot one more thing. You need to initialize this and import the create native stack navigator. So just copy that over here and import this one, save the file. So now the next step is we're gonna include the stack navigator into the main app.js. So here I'm going to say stack navigator. So save the file. So hopefully we should be seeing the login screen as the first one. Alright, so let's refresh the app once. Hopefully this should work out. So as you can see, we are able to see the first screen, that is a login screen, right? Because that's the first screen which we have given in the stack navigator. Okay, so we do not want the header to be seen in both login screen as well as the register screen. So for that purpose, I'm going to say options, header shown, I'm gonna say false. So the same thing, I'm gonna do that over here also. So as you can see, the header is gone. So now the next step is we're gonna start designing the login screen. So firstly over here, I'm gonna initialize my safe area view. So let's copy the safe area view and use it instead of the normal view. So the first step is I'm going to give some styling to the safe area view. So I'm going to say style. So it's going to have a flex of 1 and a background color of white, and it's going to have align items of center. So I think we can remove this piece of text that's not required. So the first thing inside the login screen is the image logo that's going to come up. So for that, I'm going to initialize my view over here. Okay, so I'm just going to get the code for the image. Okay guys, I just pasted the code for the image. All right, and for the view, I'm going to give it a bit of margin top, let's say 50. And this is the styling for the image, that is width of 150, height of 100, and a resize mode of contain. I'll be sending the source link in the description. You can just copy that out. So the next step is import image from React Native and save the file. As you can see, that's looking better. So now after this view, I'm going to initialize my keyboard avoiding view, import that from React Native. And here I'm going to initialize my view, which is going to contain the text, all right, which says login to your account. So this text is going to have a particular styling. So I'm going to say style. It's going to have a font size of 17. It's going to have a font weight of bold, and it's going to have a slight margin top, let's say 20, and let's save the file. As you can see, that's looking better. So now we're going to give the style for the view. So it's going to have align items of center and the justify content of center. Okay, so let's increase the margin top to be 25. Okay, so now after this, we're going to start initializing our input fields. So initialize one more view, give it some margin top to this. So I'm going to say margin top of 40, and over here I'm going to initialize my first view for the input field. So over here inside this view, it's gonna contain the icon, and it's going to contain the text input. So the first step is to get the icon. So the first one is going to be the email, and the second one is going to be the lock icon. So let's search for export.icons.fii. The first link, let's search for email, and let's use this one. So firstly import the icon family, and we're going to paste it over here and copy this piece of code. We're going to use it right here. All right, after that I'm going to initialize my text input, import that from React Native. It's going to have a placeholder which says enter your email, and firstly let's save the file. So now I'm going to give the styling for the outermost view, that is this one. So firstly I'm going to give it a flex direction of row, align items of center, and I'm going to give it a gap of 5. It's going to have a border color of this color code, and it's going to have a border width of 1. It's going to have some padding vertical of 5 and a slight border radius of 5. So save the file. As you can see, that's looking good. So now I'm going to give this styling for the text input. So I'm going to say style over here. So firstly it's going to have a color of gray, and it's going to have a margin vertical of 10, and it's going to have a specific width of 300. Okay, that's looking good. So now for the icon, I'm going to give some margin left, since it's almost touching the left part of the container. So margin left of 8, and save the file. So this is going to have a color of gray instead of black. Yep, that's looking good. So for the for the text input, I'm going to say placeholder text color, it's going to be gray. Yeah, that's looking nice. So the next step is We're just going to copy this one more time and then make the changes. So just copy this out. Okay, let's copy the entire view, this one also. So it's going to have a margin top of 30. Okay, yeah, so now let's make the changes. So over here, instead of enter your email, it's going to be enter your password. And apart from this, we're going to change the icon. So it's going to be the log icon. So we're going to use it from, let's say, and design. So firstly, copy the icon family, import it over here, and copy that into component code. And we're going to paste it instead of the material icon. And it's going to have again the margin left of 8. And the color also is going to be gray. As you can see, that's looking good. So now after this, we're going to have one more piece of view, which is going to have a different styling. That is, it's going to have two texts. Okay, so firstly format once, and over here I'm going to say view. It's going to have two texts. So the first one is going to say keep me logged in, and the second piece of text is going to say forgot password, something like this. So let's save the file. Let's give the styling for the view. It's going to have basically a flex direction of row, align items of center, and justify content of space between. And it's going to have a margin top as well. So margin top of 20, or let's keep it to be 12. Yep, that's looking good. So now we're going to give the style for the forgot password. So it's going to have a font weight of 500. And it's going to have a color of this color code, that is 007FFF. Okay, that's looking nice. So now we're going to initialize the state so that we can store whatever the user is typing in both the fields, that is email and the password. So let's initialize two states. One is for the email, so I'm going to say const email comma set email equals to use state, initially empty string, and I'm going to say const password comma set password equals to use state, again an empty string. Make sure you import use state from React like this. Let's come to the first text input and provide the value. So in this case, it's going to be whatever is stored inside of the state, that is email. After this, we have the on change text, which is going to take in the text, and we're going to set it. We're going to say set the email to be whatever the text is, that is whatever the user is typing. So let's come to the second text input, and here I'm going to say value. Of course, it's going to be the password. So let's say password, and it's going to have the on change text again. So on change text, it's going to take in the text, and here I'm going to say set the password to be whatever that particular text is. So one more change we need to make in the styling. All right, so let's do that for the text input. So that is over here. So if at all we have the password, then we're gonna change the length. So to do that, firstly I'm going to say font size. If at all we have the password, I want it to be 16, else also I want it to be 16. Okay, so the same thing I'm going to do that for the email field as well. So instead of password, it's going to be email. Okay, that's looking good. So now the next step is we're going to initialize the buttons, I guess. That is for the logging in, and if at all the user doesn't have an account, to register. Right, so that's going to happen over here, I guess, after the view. So this is going to have a self-enclosing view with a particular style. Let's say a margin top of 50 or 45. We're going to initialize the pressable first. Import pressable from React Native, which is going to contain a text which says login. So let's give the styling for the outermost pressable. So I'm going to say style. It's going to have a width of 200, and it's going to have a background color of black. and it's going to have basically some internal spacing, padding of 15, and it's going to have a margin top of 40. It's going to have a margin left of auto and margin right of auto, so it comes to the centermost part of the screen, and it's going to have a slide border radius, so border radius of 6. So format once and save the file. As you can see, that's looking good. So now for the text, we're going to make it white color. So here I'm going to say style, so I'm going to say text align of center, okay, and font weight of bold, and let's give it a font size of 16. Okay, color of white, we forgot that. Yep, that's looking nice. So now after this pressable, we're going to have one more piece of pressable so that we can navigate to the next screen. So here it's going to say text or don't have an account, and then sign up. Okay, so for the pressable, let's give some styling. So I'm going to give it a margin top of 10, and for the text here I'm going to say style. Firstly, text align of center, so it comes to the center part of the screen, and font size is going to be 16. All right, I think that's looking good. So now we're going to initialize our navigation, and if at all I press on that, I need to be navigated to the next screen. So I'm going to say const navigation equals to use navigation, save the file. So now let's initialize on press event on this pressable. So I'm going to say on press, taking a function. So here I'm going to say navigation dot navigate to the name of the screen we want to navigate to, that is going to be register. So let's press on this one. So as you can see, we are coming correctly to the register screen. So now the next step is to design the register screen. So just copy out everything that is there inside the login screen, and then we're going to make the changes. It's going to be super similar. So copy this piece of code and paste it over here. So firstly, let's start importing the required things, that is safe area view, pressable, and then we need access to the image, we need access to text input, we need access to keyboard avoiding view, and here we need access to, I think, use state, I guess. So use state. Also we need access to the icons, so let's copy all the three and paste it over here. Let's also copy the initial things, that is the state and navigation. Alright, and apart from that, let's see, keyboard avoiding view is imported, image is not imported, I guess. So image, so let's format once. So I think that's it. So let's save the file once. Image has already been declared. Okay, let's remove that. Okay, so yeah, now it's working correctly. So now what we're going to do is we're going to start making the changes. So instead of login, it's going to say register. All right, and after that, over here the first thing is going to be the name field, and after that it's going to be the email field, and then after that it's going to be the password field. So firstly, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy the first view, or just a minute, we can copy, let's say, this one, and we're going to paste it after this view. This is going to be the first one. So instead of enter your password, it's going to be enter your name. Okay, and now let's make the changes. So instead of the lock icon, we're going to make use of the person icon. So import the icon family over here and copy the render component code, and we're going to paste it over here instead of the undesign icon. So firstly, let's copy the margin left styling, give it over here, and it's going to have a color of gray. All right, I think that's looking better. So now the next step is, I think there is a bit more spacing over here compared to this one. So let's keep this to be 30. Yep, now it's looking good. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to remove this piece of styling that's not required over here. So you can just remove that view. just this one. And instead of login, it's gonna be register. And now I'm going to initialize my third state, that is for the name. So I'm going to say const name comma set name equals to use state of an empty string. So now for the text input, instead of the password, it's going to be name, and over here it's going to be set name. And for the password field, I guess we forgot to give secure text entry equals to true. So let's do that for this one. Secure text entry equals to true. So the same thing should happen inside of the login screen as well. That is over here. Yep, that's looking good. So here the final thing over here is make the changes for this one. So we are gonna say already have an account, and then sign in. So instead of navigation.navigate, we're going to say navigation.go back. Save the file. So I think that's it. So let's one check if at all the states have been written properly. So for the first one, it's going to be name, and on change text is set name, and second one is going to be email. Okay, so email and then set email, that's correct. And the third one is going to be password and set password. All right. Yep, so let's press on this one. So as you can see, we are able to switch between login screen as well as the register screen. So the design has been completed. So the next step is we're going to initialize our models inside of our index.js file. And after that, we're going to write some endpoints that we can register as well as login. So firstly, I'm going to create a new folder inside my API folder that is going to be models. Okay, and the first thing we're going to initialize is the user model. So I'm going to say user.js. So here let's start defining our user model. So firstly, to do that, I'm going to initialize my mongoose. So I'm going to say const mongoose equals to require mongoose, and over here let's start defining our user schema. So I'm going to say const user schema equals to new mongoose.schema. Alright, so here firstly we're going to write the first one, that's going to be the name. So this is going to have a type of string. Alright, and we're going to say unique is going to be true, and required is going to be true. So this is the first one. After name we have email. So the name is, the type is going to be string, required is going to be true, and unique also is going to be true. And after email we have, of course, the password. So password type is going to be string, required is going to be true. Alright, so after password we have basically the profile picture. So type is string, and required we're not going to pass that. Okay, so we're just going to pass the type, and apart from that we're going to say joined date. So we're going to say type is going to be of date, and default is going to be date.now. Alright, so the next thing is send follow request. So in this, some might not be of use, but still we are writing it. So we'll look into which is useful for us and which is not useful, right? So here I'm going to say type, it's going to be mongoose.schema .types .object ID, and the reference is going to be of type user. So reference of type user. And after this we have received follow requests. So this also is going to be the similar one, and again it's going to have a reference of user. Apart from that, we have the followers. This also is going to be in the form of an array. So we're going to say type mongoose.schema schema.type.object id. Reference is going to be user. And after followers, we have verified. So initially it's going to be a type of boolean, and default is going to be false. When the user verifies their email, we're going to make this to be true. And we have one more thing, that is the verification token. So I'm going to say verification token. It's going to be of type string. Okay, that's it. So yeah, we can save the file, and now we need to export the required thing. So here I'm going to say const user equals to mongoose.model. We're going to say user model, and we're going to pass in the user schema to this. And here I'm going to say module.exports equals to the user. Yep, so we have defined our first one, that is the user model. So the next thing we'll be looking into is the post model. So let's define that also. Create a new file, that is post.js. All right. So firstly, as usual, import mongoose equals to require mongoose, and I'm going to say const post schema equals to new mongoose dot schema. And here firstly we're going to write content, that is a text content. Of course it's going to be type of string. All right, so type is going to be string for the content. And after content we have the user who has written the post or who has posted the post. So type is going to be mongoose.schema.types.object id, and the reference is going to be of type user. You're going to say required as true. Required as true. Okay. So after the user we have the likes. So for a particular post it can have n number of likes, so we're going to make it in the form of an array. So I'm going to say likes. So type is going to be mongoose.schema.types.object id, and reference is going to be of a user. All right, so now after the likes we have the replies to a post. So I'm going to say replies. So of course a post can have n number of replies, so again it's going to be a form of an array. So let's write that. So here I'm going to say, so in the replies, so we're going to have basically an array of object, that is the reply is done by which particular person and what exactly is that reply, right? So firstly it's going to be a type of user. So I'm going to say type a mongoose.schema.types.object id. Reference is going to be user. All right, so for a reply we need to know which person did the reply, and we need to know what did the what the reply was. So for that we need the content, right? So here I'm going to say type, that's going to be string, and required is going to be true. And after the content we need at what time it was created at. So I'm going to say created at. So this is going to be a type of date, and default is going to be date.now. All right, I think these are the things required for our post model. So format once. So basically we need access to the content, the user who has posted it, the likes of that particular post, the replies of that particular post, and the created at that particular reply. And apart from that we need also access to the created at of that particular post. So type is going to be date, and default is going to be date.now. All right, so after this we're going to export the required value. So here so const post equals to mongoose.model of post, I'm going to pass in basically the post schema to this, and here I'm going to say module.exports module.exports, come on, equals to post. Yep, that's it. So post schema. Okay, yep, now it's looking correct. Yeah, so we have defined both our models, that is the user model as well as the post model. So now the next step is, firstly let's import the required values. That is, we're going to say firstly const user equals to require, go into the models and access the user. Let's access the post. So const post equals to require, firstly go into the models and access the post. Okay, so now the next step is we're going to write some endpoints. One is to register and the other one is to log in. All right, so here I'm going to say endpoint to register a user in the backend. So here firstly I'm going to say app.post, and it's going to be /register, and it's going to be an async method, and it's going to take in the request and the response. So firstly over here we're going to initialize our try catch block. So firstly let's define the catch block with the error. So I'm going to say console.log error registering user with that particular error, and we're going to say result.status of 500.json. message is going to be error registering user, something like this. Okay, so now inside the try block, firstly we need access to three things to register, as you can see over here: the name, the email, and the password. Right, so let's get that. So here I'm going to say const name, email, and the password equals to the requested body. So firstly we're going to check if at all the email exists in the backend. So to do that I'm going to say const existing user equals to await user dot find one with the help of the email. So if at all we get any existing user, we're going to pass in the result. So to do that I'm going to say return result.status of 400.json with a message saying email already exists or email already registered. All right, okay, so now the next step is we're going to say create a new user. So I'm going to write const new user equals to new user, access the model and pass in the three things, that is the email, name, email, and password. Name, email, and the password. All right, after that we're going to say generate and store the verification token, because we need to send this verification token to the registered user email. So to do that I'm going to say new user dot verification token. So this needs to be the same spelling of this one. Okay, so I'm going to say new user dot verification token equals to access the crypto. So I'm going to say crypto dot random bytes of 20.2 string of hex. So this is going to give us a random string of 20 characters which will be useful for us. And after that I'm going to say save the user to the backend. So to do that it's going to be await new user dot save. That's it, right? So after that I'm going to say send the verification email to the user, just like this. And firstly, let's define that function over here. I'm going to say send verification email. So it's going to take in two parameters, that is the new user.email, and it's going to take in the verification token that is stored over here. Okay, so that's it. So the next step is we're going to send the result. I'm going to say result dot status of 200 dot JSON with the message being registration successful. Please check your email for verification, something like this. Okay, and yep, that's it. So format once. So now the next step is we're gonna initialize the send verification email. Okay, so not sure why it is giving that red mark over there. Okay, let's start defining that over here. So firstly, I'm going to say const send verification email equals to async. It's going to take in two things, of course, the email to which we have to send the verification email and the verification token. So verification token. Okay, yeah, so let's see where we've gone wrong over here. All right, so let's remove the entire thing, which is going to give a single message. Let's say registration successful. All right, so over here inside the function, firstly we're going to say create a node mailer transporter. So to do that, firstly I'm going to say const transporter equals to node mailer dot create transport. We have that method, so I'm going to say create transport. So this is going to take in basically the service. So in my case, I'm going to say Gmail. All right, and it's going to take in the auth. So the auth is an object. It's going to take in the user who's sending the email, and it's going to contain the passcode as well. So I'm going to say user. I'm going to write in my own email. So this one, and it's going to take in the passcode, right? So to access the passcode, I've already showed you in the previous project. So let's do that once more. Let's head over to Chrome, open up your Google account. Okay, press on manage Google account. You would come to this screen, and over here search for app passwords, the first one. So I'm going to enter my password over here. Okay, so as you can see, now we need to select the app over here. So I'm going to say other, custom name. It's going to be node mailer, and after you press on generate, you would get a 16-digit or I guess 16-digit character. So just copy that out and then come back to the code, and we're going to paste it over here in the string. All right, so let's do that. Okay guys, so I've just copied down that particular characters and I've just pasted in the password, in the passcode block. So after that, the next thing is we need to compose the email message. So over here I'm going to say const mail options equals to, basically I'm going to say from, you can give it anything, let's say threads.com, and we're going to say to that particular email, and subject is going to be email verification, and we're going to pass in the text. So basically initialize your backtext. I'm going to say please click the following link to verify your email. So that is going to be http, just a minute, http localhost localhost 3000 /verify and / whatever that verification token is, that is going to come from the parameter. That's it. So the next step is we're going to send the email. So to do that, firstly initialize try and the catch block over here. So here I'm going to say console.log of error sending mail with that particular error. And inside the try block, we're going to say await transporter dot, we have the send mail method, and it's going to take in, of course, the mail options. So just write mail options over here. So that's it. So that's pretty much the code for sending a verification email to that particular user. So now the next step is we need to define this endpoint. That is, if the user presses on the link, we need to verify the user. So let's do that over here. I'm going to say app.get. So it's going to be /verify and /token. So it's going to be an async method, which is going to take in, of course, the request and the response. All right. And over here, firstly, we're going to define the try catch block. So catch of error. Firstly, I'm going to say console.log of error getting token, something like this, and we're going to send the result. So result dot status of 500 dot JSON with the message being email verification failed. Right, that's it about the catch block. So inside the try block, firstly, I need access to the token. So to do that, I'm going to say const token equals to requested params dot token, just like this. And firstly, I'm going to find the user with this particular user ID. With this particular token. So I'm going to say const user equals to await. Firstly, access the user model dot with the help of find one method. We're going to say verification token should be equal to this particular token that we get from the link. Correct. So after doing this, we're going to check if at all there is no user with that token. We're going to say return result dot status of 404 dot JSON with a message, let's say invalid token, something like this. All right, so if at all there is a user with that token, I'm going to say firstly we're going to mark that user as verified. So I'm going to say user.verified. So initially we had marked verified as false. So if the user presses on that link, it's going to become true. So I'm going to say user.verified equals to true, and user.verification token is going to become undefined because we do not need that anymore, right? Equals to undefined. Then we need to save that user. So await user.save, and we're going to send the result. So result.status of 200.json with the message being email verified successfully. Okay, so that's it about the email verification process, that is to verify that particular link which we have sent to that particular user. So save the file. So the next thing we'll be looking into is we're going to pretty much initialize the login endpoint. So I'm going to say app.post. So it's going to be /login. It's going to be async method, of course, with the request and the response in the callback. Let's initialize our try catch block. So I'm going to say try and the catch of error. So firstly here we're going to say result.status of 500.json with a message being login failed, something like this. And inside the try block, firstly we need access to two things to login, as you can see, the email and the password. So let's get that real quick. So const email comma password equals to request.body, right? So request.body. All right, so now firstly we're going to check if at all the user exists, right? So const user equals to await user dot find one with the help of email. Okay, so if at all there is no user, we're going to send the result. So 404.json with a message being invalid username or invalid user. or instead of that we can say invalid email. So if at all the user is present, firstly we're going to check if at all the password is correct for that particular registered user. So if the user.password that the user has entered while logging in is, firstly we're going to check if it's not equal. If it's not equal to the password that is stored in the backend, then that means the password is wrong, correct? So I'm going to say return result dot status of 404 with a message being invalid password. If at all the email is if at all the email is correct and the password is correct for that particular email, we need to generate a token. So I'm going to say const token equals to jwt dot sign. All right, it's going to be the user id. So to access that, it's going to be user._id, right? And we're going to pass in the secret key over here. So secret key, we're going to do that in just a bit to access the secret key. And after that, I'm going to say return, or we can just say result.status of 200.json of that particular token. Okay, so now I'm just going to get the code for the secret key. Okay, so I've just pasted the code for the generation of secret key. So firstly, I have initialized a function that is generate secret key, and everything will be stored inside of this particular secret key. And the same thing, we're just using it over here. So yep, that's it. So we have defined 3 endpoints. One is to register, login, and to verify as well. So now the next step is we're going to go into the front end part, and then we're going to initialize on press function on the particular register button that is over here. So here I'm going to say on press handle register. All right, so I'm just going to copy this function and define it at the top over here. So here I'm going to say const handle register equals to a arrow function. So to register, we need access to 3 things, as we know, that is a name, email, and the password, right? So here I'm going to say const user equals to, the name is going to be name, the email is going to be email, and the password is going to be the password. All right, so after initializing this object, I'm going to say Axios. Firstly, let's install Axios. So I'm going to say yarn add Axios. All right, so after installing Axios, firstly here I'm going to say Axios, import Axios from Axios dot with the help of post method. This is going to be the URL, that is http localhost 3000/register, and it's going to take in the object, that is the user itself. And after this, I'm going to apply the then method, which is going to give us the response. So you can console.log the response if you want. So I'm going to say console.log of the response. So here I'm going to say alert. If at all there is no error, I'm going to give an alert box, alert.alert. Here I'm going to say registration successful. You have been registered successfully. Okay, something like this. And after that, I'm gonna make all of the fields again empty. So I'm gonna say set name to be empty, and then set email to be empty, and set the password to be empty. If at all there is any error while executing the registration process, I'm gonna catch that error. So catch of error, and firstly I'm gonna say alert.alert. Okay, registration failed. We're gonna give an error occurred during registration, something like this, and just show me whatever that error is. So here I'm going to say console.log error, and then that particular error. So I think there is one more error over here. Let's look into that. I think the bracket error. Yeah, I think I forgot to put the arrow over here, I guess. Yep, now it's looking good. So format once, and I think that's it. Save the file. So now let's give this a try. Okay, so I'm gonna enter all of the values over here. Firstly the name and the email, So after entering the email, I'm going to enter my password over here and I'm going to press in register. Okay, it says registration failed, error occurred during registration. So let's see where we've gone wrong. So okay, wrong spelling of console, is it? Console. Okay, console. Let's see over here if there is any errors. Yep, there is an error. Okay, wrong spelling of models, mongoose.model. I think it should be just model, I guess. So let's look into that. Firstly, let's go over here. So in the post, it's gonna be model. Yeah, my bad. So here it needs to be just model, not models. Okay, so I think that's what the error is. Let's give one more try. So here I think everything is correct. Yeah, let's give one more try. So let's press on register. So as you can see, registration is successful. So okay, let's go check out our MongoDB first over here. So let's refresh the app once, and we're going to go into the collections. So let's press on browse collections. So our first user should be added. As you can see over here, users. So there you go, the first user has been added, right? So currently verified as false. We have the email, password, username, and the original ID that is generated. And this is the verification token and the joined date. So now let's go check out my email if at all I have received that particular verification email, right? So let's go over here, press on my email. So as you can see, this is the email verification link. So as soon as I press on this link, this endpoint should get triggered off. That is verify one. Where is that? Yeah, this one. And we should make the user as verified. That is, you have to mark it as verified, and the verification token should become undefined. So let's give this a try. As you can see, email verified successfully. So now if I go over here and refresh, so currently it is false. Now if I refresh, it should have become true. Yep, so as you can see, this particular user is verified. So I think that's looking better, right? So this part is done. So if at all you're trying this on a phone, okay, I'll just put up the steps that you need to follow in the description. You can follow that. If at all you get again the same error, that is Axios network error, I think it's better to change the port over here as well, and over here as well. This one you can change the port here, and you can change the port over here also, that is in the front end part over here. Okay, so the both should be same. So yeah, this part is done. So the next thing we'll be looking into is the logging in, right? So let's go to login first, and we're going to create an on-press event on the login button, that is over here. So here I'm going to say on-press, let's say handle login, something like this, and we're going to define this function right at the top over here. So let's define const handle login equals to an arrow function. So to log in, we need access to two things, as you can see, that is the email and the password, right? So let's define that over here. So I'm going to say const user equals to an object. Email is going to be email, and the password is going to be password. All right, so now let's import Axios from Axios. Okay, so Axios. Okay, let's import it manually. So here I'm going to say import Axios from Axios, just like this. And here I'm going to say axios.post method, and this is going to be my URL, that is http /localhost 3000 /login. This is the endpoint, and over here we're going to pass in the details, that is the user. And after doing this, I'm going to apply. So this in turn is going to take in, of course, the response, and over here I'm going to say console.log of response. Okay, and now we're going to get the token from over here. Okay, so we need to store that token inside of async storage. So firstly, let's install that package. So here I'm going to say async storage expo, the first link, and install with the help of this piece of code. So open up a new terminal inside the threads app, paste it over here. So after console.logging the response, I'm going to say firstly const token equals to response dot data dot token. Okay, this is the correct value of the token. And after doing this, I'm going to say access the async storage that we just installed. So it's going to be async storage start. With the help of the set item method, we're going to store that particular token. So this works in the form of key value pair. So for a particular key, we're going to give the value. So in this case, I'm going to say auth token is going to be my key. You can pretty much give any key you want. So I'm going to say auth token, and the key is going to be, of course, the token itself. Just like this. And after doing this, I'm going to say navigation.navigate to the home screen. So currently we do not have the home screen, so we're going to just define a random screen in the stack navigator. Firstly, let's create a home screen. So inside our screens folder, here I'm going to say home screen.js rnfes to get the shorthand snippet. All right, so save this file, and now we're going to include this into the stack navigator over here, just here after the register screen. So the name is going to be home over here, and component is going to be basically the home screen. So just for testing purposes, I'm just going to initialize this. After the login part has been finished, we're going to initialize the bottom tab navigator. So here also header shown is going to be false. So here I'm going to say navigation.navigate to the home screen. So yeah, response spelling is wrong over here. So let's look into that. So here it needs to be response. All right. Yep. And if at all there is any error while logging in, I just want to catch that error. So I'm going to say catch of error. All right. So here I'm going to say console.log error and that particular error. Okay, so format once, and I think let's also give an alert message over here. So alert, we're going to say login error, and make sure you import alert from React Native. All right, so let's import it over here, alert. And yep, I think that's it about the login function. So save the file. Yes, I think we can give this a try. So if at all everything works correctly, we need to store the we need to store the token into async storage, and then we need to navigate to the home screen. So firstly, let's write my email over here, and let's write in the password, and let's press in login. So as you can see, everything is working fine. We are correctly coming into the login screen. That means this also worked correctly. That means we have stored the token inside of async storage. All right, so that's working absolutely fine. So now the next step is we're going to check if at all the user is logged in or not, if at all the app is refreshed and again opened up, right? So to do that, we're going to initialize our use effect over here. Okay, so make sure you import use effect from React, that is over here. So I'm going to say use effect, and we're going to initialize a function inside the use effect. Let's say const check login status, right? I'm going to say const check login status equals to an async function. Okay, so here I'm going to initialize my try and catch block firstly. So here I'm going to say firstly console.log whatever that error is, if at all there is any error. Okay, so error, let's write that correctly. So inside the try block, firstly we need access to the token that is being set. So to do that, I'm going to say const token equals to await. So again, async storage. So now previously we had used the set item method. So now to get the token, we have the get item method. All right, get item. We need to use the same key which we used to set it. So the key was auth token. So I'm just going to write the same over here as well, auth token. So here I'm just going to apply the condition saying if at all we have the token. All right, then I'm going to say redirect to the main screen, right? So here I'm going to say set timeout of, let's say, 400 milliseconds, that is 0.4 seconds. And here I'm going to say navigation.navigate or navigation.replace to the home screen. But when we initialize the bottom tab, we need to make the changes over here. So it'll be main over here instead of home, right? So after that, else it's going to be the login screen itself. So save the file, and we're going to call the function over here. Let's say check login status. Okay, so save the file once, and let's refresh the app and let's check it out. So hopefully we should be seeing the login screen for a couple of seconds, and then it needs to navigate us to the home screen. So as you can see, that's working fine, right? So the next step is we're gonna initialize our bottom tab navigator over here, and then we have different kinds of design that we saw in the initial part of the video, and then we're gonna design that. So here I'm gonna initialize my tab firstly. So const tab equals to create bottom tab navigator. So import that from React navigation / bottom tabs. Okay. So now I'm going to initialize my function over here. So I'm going to say function bottom tabs, just like this, a normal function. So here I'm going to say return tab.navigator. This is the first one. And here we are going to have the first screen, that is the tab.screen. So the name is going to be home for this. Component is going to be home screen. Home screen is already imported, and we're going to provide, of course, the options for this. So I'm going to say options. Firstly, tab bar label, it's going to be home. Okay. So after this one, we have tab bar label style. It's going to have a color of black, and we have header shown. It's going to be false. All right. And after that, we have the tab bar icon. So I'm going to say tab bar icon. So this is going to take in a prop, that is if at all it is focused or not. So if it is focused, we're going to show a different icon, else we're going to show again another different icon. So here we're going to apply the condition saying if it is focused, we have one icon, else we have a different one. All right, so for the focused, it's going to be the home icon. So let us search for this one over here, home icon. So it's going to be from intypo. So copy the icon family, import it over here, and again copy the render component code. We're going to paste it if it is focused. If it is not focused, again it's going to be the home icon, that is the outlined version of it, let's say from design. So copy the render component code and paste it over here. Copy the that was the import one, right? So yeah, copy the render component code and paste it over here. So this is the first one. All right, save the file. So now I'm just going to copy this a couple of times, 3 more times, and then later make the changes. Again, we're going to initialize some screens that we want. All right, so this is going to be the thread screen .js, and we have the activity screen .js rnfes. Save the file. Here also rnfes. Save the file. And yeah, so for the second one, it's gonna be threads or just thread, and the component is gonna be threads screen. So import that from the screens folder, and over here icon is going to be create. Let's search for create. Okay, ion icons has already been imported, I guess. Nope, it's not. So firstly import it out and copy the render component code, and if it is focused, it's going to come over here. All right, if it is not focused, it's going to come over here. If it is focused, it's going to be the same icon, okay, but it's going to have a different name, that is create. All right, that's the second part. Now for the third one, that is going to be the activity screen. So the name is going to be activity, and the component is going to be activity screen. Import that from the screens folder, just like this. And after that, or tab bar label also should be changed. So here it's going to be activity, and here we can give it any name. Let's give it create or thread. All right, so yeah, we need to change the icon over here as well. So it's going to be from and design, right? And it's going to have a heart. So just copy this out. Here it's going to be just heart. All right, so that's it. So the final one is going to be the profile screen. So let's create a new screen for that. So here I'm going to say profile screen .js rnfes to get the shorthand snippet. Save the file. So now instead of name of home, it's going to be profile, and over here it's going to be profile screen. So import this from the screens folder. All right, let's import it manually. So import profile screen from screens / profile screen. So yep, that's done. And yeah, tab bar label, it's gonna be profile. And yep, so over here it's gonna have a person icon. So let's search for that person. So iron icons is imported. So if it is focused, it's gonna be this one, and if it's not focused, it's gonna be the outlined version, that is this one, person outline. So I'm gonna paste it over here, and now I'm gonna make the change over here. First is going to be login screen, register screen, and this is going to have a different name, that is main, and the component is going to be this function that we just initialized, that is bottom tabs. So I'm going to say bottom tabs. All right, so save the file. So now we need to make the changes firstly with the login screen. So here I'm going to say navigation dot replace to the main tabs. All right, so as you can see, now we are able to see the bottom tab navigator seen correctly. So this is the home, create, activity, and the profile. All right, so now everything is working fine. We have set up the bottom tab navigator. So now I'm going to create one more user in the backend, so that we can connect both the users, and then we will look into how we can implement the follow and unfollow method. So now I'm going to create the user, and then after that we're going to initialize and design the activity screen. So I have created a new user in the backend with my other email. All right, so now the next step is we're going to start designing the activity screen. So let's go into the activity screen over here, and firstly here I'm going to make use of the scroll view. Firstly, let's import it, and we're going to make use of the normal view. Instead of the normal view, just use the scroll view. And over here I'm going to give the style, well, let's say a margin top of 50. All right, so inside the activity screen, okay, so this screen is going to contain all of the users. Okay, so the first step is to show the three different things, that is basically requests, and apart from requests we have people, and then we have all. Right, so let's look into the design of that. Firstly, let's remove this text. I'm going to initialize my view with a text which says activity. So let's give the styling for this. It's going to have a font size of 18 and a font weight of bold. So font weight of bold. All right, so for this view I'm going to give some internal spacing, that is a padding of 10, just like this. And after that I'm going to initialize my second view over here. So this is going to have basically a touchable opacity. Import that from React Native. So this touchable opacity is going to have a text which says people. So I think it's not imported. All right, so we're going to give the style for the view over here. So it's going to have basically a flex direction of row, align items of center, and it's going to have basically a gap of 10 and a margin top of 12. Alright, so now we're going to give the style for this particular text, or for the opacity, for the touchable opacity. It's going to have an array of styles. So I'm going to say style equals to an array of styles. So the first one is going to have this style. So flex of 1, it's going to have a padding vertical of 10. Alright, and after that we're going to give it some padding horizontal as well of 20. It's going to have a background color of white. It's going to have a border color of this color code, and it's going to have a border radius of 6 and border width of 0.7. Alright, so now we're going to initialize the state, that is which button is exactly selected and which is not. So here I'm going to say const selected button comma set selected button. So pretty much we have 3 buttons equals to use state. So initially I want the people button to be shown, so I'm going to pass in the default value, that is people. Alright, so apart from that I'm going to say const content set content equals to use state. So initially it's going to be all content, or let's keep it as people content. So I'm going to say people content. Alright, so now we're going to go back over here to the style part, and then we're going to firstly apply the condition and check which is selected. So if at all this is selected, that is if the selected button equals to a people, then I want it to have a background color of black, else it's going to be null. Alright, so now we're going to give the style for the text. This also is going to have an array of styles. So I'm going to say style equals to array of styles. So the first one is going to be the default one that is going to get applied. So text align of center, a font weight of bold. Alright, so now apart from that, we're going to again apply the condition and check if at all the selected button equals to people. So if this is true, then that means the color should be white. Alright, else it's going to be black. It's going to be black over here. So format 1, so this is the style. Okay, so if at all selected button equals to people, the color should be white and the background color should be black, else it's going to be black itself. So yeah, save the file. Use state does not exist, so let's import use state. Alright, I think I've commented out the login screen, this one, so let's uncomment it so that we can navigate to the main tabs. Alright, so as you can see, this is the default styling, right? So I'm just going to copy this a couple of times inside my activity screen. That is basically the touchable opacity, this one. Copy this once and then twice. So the second time it's going to be requests, or you can give it as all. And this one is going to be requests. Okay. Yeah, so here we're going to make the changes. So over here it's going to be selected button equals to all, background color is going to be black. Other than that, it's going to be the same thing. Over here also selected button equals to all, it's going to have this color of white, else it's going to be black. And for the final one also, if selected button equals to requests, it's going to be this one over here also, requests. Okay, save the file. As you can see, currently people is selected because we have given the default as people. So for that reason, you're seeing people as defaultly selected, right? So the next step is we're going to initialize onPress event on each of the touchable opacity. So let's do that from the first, that is over here. So I'm going to say onPress. It's going to take in a function, and here I'm going to say handle button click of the people. So let's define this function right at the top over here. So I'm going to say const handle button click. This is going to give us the button name that we pressed on, right? So here I'm going to say set the selected button to be the button name. All right, so let's do one thing. Let's also copy the onPress for the remaining buttons as well. So here it's going to be requests. For the second one, it's going to be all, right, over here. And this one is going to be requests. Yep, this is going to be requests. All right, so as you can see, currently all is selected, so the background color is black for it, and request is selected, background color is black. Okay, so I think that's it. So we have implemented the initial design of the activity screen. So now the next step is we're gonna define an endpoint in such a way that we're gonna show all of the users other than the logged in user, because the logged in user cannot follow themselves, right? So for that reason, let's come back into the index.js file, and here we're going to define the endpoint over here. So I'm going to say endpoint to access all the users except the logged in user, because that particular user cannot follow themselves, right? So here I'm going to say app.get, so it's going to be /user and /user ID. So user ID, and it's going to take in, of course, the two things in the callback, request and the response. And the first thing is we're going to initialize the try catch block. So try and the catch block over here. So here I'm going to say firstly result.status of 500.json with the message being error getting the users, something like this. And inside the try block, firstly we need access to the logged in user ID. So I'm going to say const logged in user ID equals to request.params.user ID. Alright, and after that I'm going to say, with the help of access the user model, user.find. So I'm going to pass in basically the underscore ID, which should not equal the logged in user ID. So to do that, I'm going to say $not equal the logged in user ID. So after that, I'm going to say the .then method, which is going to give us the users excluding the logged in user ID, right? So here I'm going to say result.status of 200.json, send me all of the users. That's it. If at all there is any error, I'm going to catch it. So catch of error. Firstly, I'm going to say console.log of error, whatever that error is. And apart from that, we're going to send the result. So I'm going to say result.status 500.json error. You can give any message. All right, I think that's it. Let's format once. Okay, so now the next step is we're going to go into the activity screen, And then with the help of a user fact, we're going to fetch all of the users except the logged in user. So here, firstly, I'm going to initialize my user fact, just like this. All right, so let's import user fact from React. Okay, so now I need access to my user ID in every point of my application, right? So to do that, I'm going to initialize a context at the global level. Let's say I'm going to create a new file over here with the name user context.js. Okay, I'm just going to paste in the code over here. It's going to be the same thing that we have done from the previous two projects. So firstly, I'm going to import create context and use state. And I'm defining my user type equals to create context with the help of that method. And I'm going to define my user context over here, which is going to return the provider. And provider is going to take in all the children that come from the props. So you can pretty much copy this out and save the file. And this is the state that I want, that is the user ID and the set user ID. So I'm passing both the values over here as the value prop over here. So now for everything to work, we need to include it in the main app.js. So make sure you import user context from the context file, just like this, and put the stack navigator inside the user context. Save the file. So now let's come back to the activity screen and we can start defining our function. So here I'm going to say const, let's say fetch users equals to async. Alright, so firstly I need access to my token, right? So let's get that. So I think that we've already done in the login screen. Just copy this piece of code and paste it over here. Make sure you import async storage. Alright, let's just copy this one. Alright, so now we need access to basically the token, right? So to do that, firstly, we're going to install a dependency. So here I'm going to say yarn add JWT decode. So let's press on enter. And here I'm going to say const decoded token equals to JWT underscore decode of that token that is present from the async storage. So let's import JWT decode over here, just like this. Alright, so now after doing this, I'm going to say const user ID equals to decoded token dot user ID. And after that, I'm going to say set the user ID to be whatever that user ID is. Just like this. I think that's it. So now I'm going to say axios dot get. So it's going to be this endpoint, that is http /localhost 3000 /users and /your ID, right? So firstly, let's import axios from axios. And over here, let's make use of backticks so that we can get access to the user ID, that is this itself. So I'm going to say user ID. All right. And after we have done this, I'm going to say apply the then method, which is going to give us the response. And here I'm going to say set the users to be the response.data. Firstly, let's initialize the state to hold the users equals to use state. Initially, it's going to be an empty array. All right. So yep, after this, I'm going to say set users of response.data, and if at all there is any error, I'm going to catch it. So console.log error and that particular error. Okay, that's it. So format once. So yeah, set user ID is undefined because we need to get it first with the help of the use context hook. So here I'm going to say destructure the value, that is user ID comma set user ID equals to use context, and we need to pass the context, that is the user type. So let's import user type. Okay, let's import use context from React. And okay, you can just pretty much copy this out. That is a user type. So now let's call the function over here, that is fetch users, and let's console.log if at all we're getting the correct user. So we should currently get one user because we only have 2 users in the backend. So I'm going to say users. So let's give this a try, save the file. And okay, we have an error, request field with status code 404. Okay, there is no error over here. Oh, that was a previous one. So yep, let's see where we have gone wrong. Let's check the endpoint once inside of the index.js file. Okay, so here it's user ID. Let's check over here if it's the correct spelling. Activity screen. Okay, yeah, we have made a mistake. It's going to be user. So save the file, and as you can see, we have the user. All right, so this is the other user. Okay, so with the help of this information, we're gonna design the initial part of the activity screen. So that's gonna happen after the view, that is over here. So here I'm gonna say view. So firstly, we're gonna check the condition, that is if at all the selected button equals to people, which is true by default. I'm going to say then only show this particular design. So inside the view, I'm going to map over the user. So I'm going to say users.map for every item and index. I'm going to firstly create a new component. So into my components folder, I'm going to say user.js rnfes to get the shorthand snippet. Save the file, and here I'm going to say import the user component from the components folder. So to the user component, I'm going to pass in the key, which is going to be the index, and I'm going to pass in the item itself, that is containing all of the information. So item equals to item. Save the file. So as you can see, we have only one user. For that reason, you're just seeing user being shown over here. So the next step is we're going to start designing the user. So firstly, let's give some margin top to this here. So style margin top of 20, and over here firstly let's destructure the props. So it's going to be item, and first thing is we're gonna initialize the image, right? So for now I'm just gonna use the dummy image, that is the profile image of the user, that is gonna be the person icon, similar to icon. So I'm just gonna get the image now. Okay guys, I've just pasted the code for the image. So let's import image from React Native. As you can see, that's gonna be our image. So now I'm gonna say put this inside of that view, that is the image. And after the image, we are gonna pretty much show the username. So let's say over here, I'm gonna initialize my text attribute. So to access the user name, it's gonna be item.name, right? So here I'm gonna say item.name. Let's give the styling for this. So I'm gonna say style, font size of 15, and it's gonna have a font weight of 500. So save the file. As you can see, that's my username, and after that we're going to have the pressable to follow that particular user. So it's going to say text, and we're going to say follow. So let's give the style for the pressable. So it's basically going to have a border color of this color code, that is D0 D0 D0, and it's going to have a border width as well. So border width of, let's say, 1, and it's going to have some internal spacing, that is a padding of 10, a slight margin left, and it's going to have a specific width of 100 and a slight border radius of 7. So save the file. Pressable does not exist, so import pressable from React Native. So yeah, let's give the styling for the outermost view. So style, flex direction of row, so it comes into the row, and align items of center, and justify content of space between. I don't think that's required. Let's see how that looks. Space between. Nope. So let's remove that out. Alright, so we want the button to come towards the rightmost part. So for the text, we're going to give it a flex of 1. So it pushes the button towards the rightmost part, just like this. So for this text, I'm going to say style, text align center, font size 15, font weight bold. Yep, I think that's looking nice. And for this particular text, we're going to give the styling margin left of 10, or instead of that we can give a gap over here. I guess let's give a gap of 10. Let's remove this out. Okay, yep, I think that's looking better. Alright, so we have designed the user component. So now the next step is we're going to define an endpoint to follow a particular user and unfollow a particular user as well. So let's come into the index.js file, and here I'm going to say endpoint to follow a particular user. So here I'm going to make use of the post method. So I'm going to say app.post, and it's going to be /follow. All right, and it's going to be a async method, which is going to take in, of course, the request and the response in the callback. And firstly, we need access to two things, that is the current user ID and the selected user ID, right? So here I'm going to say const current user ID. So this is the ID of the person who's logged in, and the selected user ID is the ID of the person whom you're sending a follow request or whom you're following, right? So it's going to be selected user ID equals to request.body. All right, so firstly let's initialize our try catch block over here. So catch of error, so here I'm going to say console.log error and result.status of 500.json with a message saying error in following. User. All right, so inside the try block, firstly what I'm going to do is I'm going to update the followers array of a particular user. So here I'm going to say await user dot find by ID and update. Okay, so we need to update the followers list of the selected user ID, right? So it's going to be selected user ID, and here I'm going to say $push, just access the followers, and here I'm going to say push the current user ID, because this is the person who's following this one selected user ID, right? So format once, I think that's it. So we are just going to look into the followers, and then we're just going to push the ID of this particular person who is logged in into the followers list of this particular person. So after doing that, I'm going to say result.send status of 200. Yep, that's it for the follow. So format once and save the file. So now the next thing we'll be looking into is the unfollow. So here I'm going to say endpoint to unfollow a user. So here I'm going to say app.post. It's going to be /users/unfollow. It's going to be an async method, which is going to take in the request and the response. All right, so firstly we need access to two things over here, that is the current user ID and the target user ID. So here I'm going to say logged in user ID comma target user ID equals to the request dot body. All right, so let's initialize our try catch block. So here I'm going to say result dot status of 500 dot JSON with a message being error unfollowing the user. So inside the try block, I'm just going to simply remove whatever ID is there from this particular followers array. So I'm pretty much going to remove this logged in user ID from the followers array if at all any user presses on the unfollow button. So inside the try block, I'm going to say await access the user model dot find by ID and update. Find by ID and update. So we're going to update, of course, the target user ID because the logged in user ID is unfollowing this one, right? So here I'm going to say update the target user ID. All right, and over here I'm going to say with the help of the pull method, access firstly the followers array, followers, and here it's going to be remove this particular user ID from the followers array, that is logged in user ID. So I think that's it about the unfollow method. So follow means we're just going to push the current user ID. Unfollow means we're just going to pull that particular user ID from the followers array. So I think follower spelling is wrong. So let's use this one. All right. So that's it. Save the file. So now let's go into the activity screen and then initialize a onPress function on the follow button. I mean, not to the activity screen, to the user component basically here. So where we have the follow button, I'm going to say onPress. So it's going to take in a function. Here I'm going to say send follow of, we need two things. Firstly is the user ID. So user ID is already stored inside of the state, and the second one is the selected user ID or the target user ID. That's going to be item._id. So let's do one thing. So as soon as we load the app, I need the set user ID to be set. I mean, I need this value to be present. So let's do one thing. So let's come back to the activity screen, copy this piece of code, okay, this one, and we're going to go into the home screen over here, home screen, and paste it right here. So make sure you import useEffect, and I just need to set this one. This is not required. So make sure you import async storage, and we need access to this also, JWT code. So let's do one thing, import it from the activity screen. All right, so yep, that's done. So now we need access to two things, that is the state. With the help of the use context hook, I'm gonna copy this piece of code and we're gonna paste over here. So make sure you import use context, all right, and the user type as well. So as soon as the page loads, I want the user ID to be set, right? So for that reason, I'm doing this. So yep, we can save the file. Okay, no errors, that's good. So format once, and then we're going to go back to the activity over here, user component, and yep, let's initialize. Firstly, let's get the values, that is user ID and the set user ID. Make sure you import use context as well as the user type from the context file, just like this, format once. All right, so now let's firstly check if at all we have the user ID, right? So I'm going to say console.log user ID. So as you can see, we have the user ID present, it is not undefined. So now we're going to define the function right at the top, that is send follow. So onPress equals to send follow, we're passing two things. There is a user ID, logged in user ID, and the target user ID or the selected user ID. So here I'm going to say const send follow equals to a async method. This is going to take in two things, that is the current user ID and the selected user ID. Alright, so firstly we're going to initialize our try catch block. So catch of error, we're going to say console.log error message. It's going to be the error itself. So inside the try block, I'm going to initialize my response. So const response equals to await fetch, and this is going to be the URL, that is http:/localhost http:/localhost 3000/follow. All right, so over here we're going to pass in some options. That is the method, it's going to be of post, and headers, how are we going to say content type application/JSON. Of course, the next thing we need to provide is the body, because it's the post method. So here I'm going to say json.stringify. We need to pass in two things, if you would remember, that is the current user ID as well as the select user ID. So I'm going to say current user ID and the select user ID, both are coming from the parameters from the function. All right, so after that I'm going to check over here, if at all the response.ok, that means you're going to do something. So firstly I'm going to initialize my state, if at all, to check whether or not the request is sent. So I'm going to say const request sent, set request sent equals to use state. Initially it's going to be false, and if at all the response is okay, then only we're going to set it to be true. So here I'm going to say set request sent to be true. All right, so now we can save the file. I think that's it about the follow function. Use state does not exist, right? So make sure you import use state. All right, so let's come over here. So now we're going to give this a try, and now also to change the UI we are going to apply a condition over here, that is where we have the follow button. So here I'm going to say if at all request sent is true, which is going to be true if at all the request is okay, if at all this is true, or if at all our item dot access the followers list if the followers dot includes our user ID, then this means that we are following that particular person, right? So if this is the case, then that means I'm gonna say following. If this is not the case, then I'm gonna say follow. So here it's gonna be following, and we're gonna change this function in just a bit. Okay, so yeah, this is the condition that we are applying. If at all this is true or this becomes true, then it means we are following that particular person. All right, else if it is false, it's going to be follow itself. So save the file once. Okay, so let's give this a try. So currently let's see what is my user ID. Okay, so my user ID is this one, so that is 64D9. So if at all I press on this user ID should be inserted into the followers of this particular person, right? So let's give this a try. I'm going to press on follow. As you can see, we are following that person. So just to check if it is correctly working or not, we're going to go into the backend, and this particular ID should be present in the followers array of this person. So let's head over to MongoDB once and refresh. So this is me. All right, so because this is my ID, that is 64D9, and this is the other person. So let's check the followers of this person. As you can see, my ID is present. Okay, so this person has currently one follower, and over here it should be still empty. That is in my followers array. As you can see, it's empty, right? So that's the way this thing works. So now if at all we're going to press on unfollow, we're going to implement that as well. So what I'm going to do is, firstly we're going to initialize a new function over here. Let's say handle unfollow, and here we are interested in the item dot underscore ID. All right, so now we're gonna define this function right at the top. So over here, yeah, so I'm gonna say const handle unfollow equals to a basic async function, which is gonna take in, of course, the target ID. All right, so here, so firstly I'm gonna say a try block and the catch block. So firstly, just show whatever that particular error is, if at all there is any error. So inside the try block, firstly I'm going to initialize my response. So I'm going to say const response equals to await fetch, and this is going to be my URL, that is http localhost 3000 and /users/unfollow. So this also is going to be a method of post headers. It's going to be content type application/JSON, and we need to pass in the body. So here we're going to say body, it's going to be json.stringify the logged in user ID, that's going to be the user ID itself, and the targeted user ID, or the target user ID, target user ID, it's going to be the target ID that is coming from the parameters of the function. Yes, that's it. So target ID, it should work properly. So save the file. So now if at all the response is okay, if response dot okay, then that means I'm going to say set the request sent to be false, and here I'm going to say console.log unfollowed successfully. So let's save the file. So if I press on unfollow, my ID should be removed from the followers array of this particular person, right? And over here we should be seeing follow. So let's give this a try. Okay, I guess it didn't work correctly, so let's go check out once in the backend. So over here in this particular followers array, okay, so this is correctly working in the backend, but over here in the front end part it's not changing, right? Because we need to show here as follow again, because we have unfollowed that person.
So now let's go check out the index.js file. I think that's where we have made the mistake, I guess, because in the backend, if it's working correctly, over here the UI is not getting updated, right? So I think we forgot to add the result over here when we unfollow a particular user. So here I'm just gonna paste the code. That is result status of 200.json message. It's gonna be unfollowed successfully. So save the file. So now if I'm if I go back to my user.js file, and if I'm gonna press on unfollow, automatically we should be seeing the UI getting changed. So let's give that a try. So as you can see, that's looking absolutely fine. So we can follow as well as we can unfollow, right? So yep, that's working absolutely fine. So now the next step we'll be looking into is we're gonna start designing the create screen where we can send a post. And after doing that, we're gonna write some endpoints to create a post, and furthermore we have to write the endpoint for liking a post and unliking a post. So let's get into the design of the create screen, that is basically the thread screen over here.
So firstly over here I'm going to initialize my view like this, and firstly inside the view I'm going to have my image. So I'm just going to get the link for the image over here. Okay, you can pretty much copy it. It's going to be the same link that we've used earlier, that is for the URI. So make sure you import image from React Native. All right, and yeah, after this I'm going to say text. This is going to contain the username. So for now I'm just going to hard code it. When we initialize the endpoint to get the profile of that particular user, then we're going to make this look dynamic. So I'm just going to say and save the file. All right, so now for this let's give some styling. So firstly, let's give margin top, or let's make this actually a safe area view. So over here, I'm going to say safe area view. So over here and over here. All right, so now we're going to give some styling to this one. So basically some padding. All right, and we're going to give the styling for this one. We're going to give the flex direction of row, align items of center, and we're going to give it a gap of 10. All right, that's looking good. So let's format once. I think the padding is not being applied, not sure why. Okay, padding of 10. Yeah, that's looking good. So now after this view, we're gonna have basically the text input to enter the text. So here I'm going to say view, initialize the text input, import text input from React Native as such. So it's going to have a placeholder which says type your message. So placeholder is going to be type your message. All right, so the placeholder text color is going to be black. And now we're going to give the, we're going to initialize the state to hold the text. So we're going to say const content comma set content equals to use state. It's going to be initially empty. Let's import use state from React. All right, so now we're going to give the value to this. So value is going to be content, and we have the on change text. So I'm going to say on change text. It's going to take in the text whatever the user is typing, and then we're going to just say set the content to be of that particular text. All right, so yeah, we have value, this the value change on change text currently being set up. So save the file. Now we're going to give the style for the view over here. So I'm going to say style flex direction row and a bit of margin left of 10 and some spacing on the top, margin top of 12. All right, that's looking good. So the next thing is we're going to make this look multi-line. So I'm going to say multi-line. Okay, I think let's remove the margin top once. Yep, I think this also is looking good. So after this, we are going to initialize a button, right, which says share post. So button, import button from React Native as such. Here we're going to say title. I think we can make it a self-enclosing tag over here. So we're going to say title equals to share post. Okay, and apart from that, we're going to give it some style, a margin top of 20, or let's keep it to be 40. Okay, I'm not sure that's being applied. 120, nope. So margin top of auto, and a flex direction of row. Okay, never mind. So let's do one thing. Let's just give basic height over here. Let's remove this out, and instead of this, we're just going to give a basic height. In view, let's say style, we're going to give this margin top of 20. Yep, I think that's looking better. So yeah, format once and save the file. So now the next step is we're going to initialize endpoints to create a new post in the backend. So let's head over to index.js file, and here I'm going to say endpoint to create a new post in the backend. All right, so we are going to make use of the post method. So I'm going to say app.post, that is create post. It's going to be a async method with the request and the response. So here firstly I'm going to initialize my try catch block. So I'm going to say try catch of error, firstly result dot status of 500 dot JSON with a message saying post creation failed. Yeah, that was correct, post creation failed. And over here I think we have a bracket error. Yep, that's correct. So now inside the try block I need access to two things, that is the user ID and the content, that is whatever the user is writing. So I'm going to say const content comma user ID equals to request.body. Okay, so here I'm going to say if at all there is content, then that means I'm going to say new post data dot content equals to content. Let's define the new post data at the top. So I'm going to say const new post data equals to an object. So it's going to contain basically the user with the user ID that's coming from the request body. All right, so now we're going to initialize the new post. So I'm going to say const new post equals to new post, access the post model, and it's going to take in the new post. All right, so yeah, I mean the new post data. So this is going to include the user ID as well as the content, if at all the content is present, right? And after that over here I'm going to say await new post dot save, just like this. Okay, so save the file and then we're going to send the result. So here I'm going to say result dot status of 200 dot JSON with the message being post saved or created successfully, anything you can write. Save the file. Okay, so that's the endpoint for creating a post. So now the next step is we're going to write the endpoint for liking a particular post. So here I'm going to say endpoint for liking a particular post. So again this is going to be the put method. So I'm going to say app.put /post / we need access to the post ID, whatever is there, and we need access to the user ID also, user ID, and / like. So it's going to be an async method with the request and the response. So firstly here we're going to initialize our try catch block. So try, then the catch of error, I'm just going to say console.log of error, and result.status of 500.json of message. Okay, we're going to give a different message. Let's say an error occurred while liking. Yep, that's it. So inside the try block we need access to the two things, that is the post ID and the user ID. So here I'm going to say const post ID equals to request.params.post ID, const user ID equals to request.params.user ID. So after that I'm going to say const post equals to await post dot find by ID. First we're going to find that particular post with the help of the ID. So find by ID of the post ID that we are getting from the params, and we're going to populate it to get the details of the user, that is basically the user as well as the name. That's it. So now we need to initialize a updated post where we need to increase the like of that particular post by 1. So here I'm going to say const updated post equals to await post dot find by ID and update. So we're going to update the post with the help of the post ID that we have. All right, so here I'm going to say, I'm going to apply the method that is add to set. We're going to access the likes array, and inside the likes array, I'm going to pass in my user ID. Okay, so I'm going to say user ID, just like this. So I think there is a kind of bracket error. So this is going to take in basically the post ID, and after that we're going to say add to set. We're going to access the likes, and here we're going to add in the user ID. Okay, and after that we're going to say new equals to true. Yep, that's it. What we're doing is we're just going to add the user ID who has liked that particular post with the help of this statement. And over here I'm going to write the condition that if at all there is no updated post, then we're going to say return result.status of 404.json with a message saying post not found. All right, after that I'm going to say updated post.user equals to the post.user. Okay, so I'm doing this because I need access to the username and I want it to come inside of the post itself. So for that reason I'm going to say updated post.user equals to post.user, and I'm going to send result.json of the updated post. Just like this, we have completed the endpoint to like a particular post. Okay, so I'm just going to copy down the next endpoint to unlike a post because it is super similar to the like the post, right? So we have to just make one change. Okay guys, I've just pasted the code for unliking a particular post. It's like super similar to the liked one. One change is instead of add to set, we're just going to pull that particular user ID from the likes array. Apart from that, everything is going to remain the same thing. You can just look into this one and this one. Okay, make that change over here, and that's it about the unliking of the post. So the next thing is we're going to say endpoints to get all the posts. So here with the help of the get method, I'm going to define this. So it's going to say get posts. It's going to be an async method with the request and the response. So firstly we're going to initialize our try catch block. So catch of error result.status of 500.json with a message saying an error occurred while getting the posts. All right, yeah, just like this. So inside the try block, firstly I'm going to initialize my posts. So I'm going to say const posts equals to await post.find .populate based on the user, and we need access to the name and the profile picture. Name and the profile picture. If you do not have the profile picture, just give the name because we're going to use the same profile picture, that is this one. All right, so we're going to sort also, so such that the latest post come towards the top part. So here I'm going to say sort created at -1. Just like this, and format it. So after doing this, we're just going to send it in the result, that is basically the posts array. So here I'm going to say result dot status of 200 dot json send the posts. So where did that go? Yeah, format once and save the file. So yep, that's it. So we have defined the endpoint to get all of the particular posts. So with the help of this, we're gonna start designing, implementing over here. Firstly, we're gonna initialize the onPress event on the thread screen, and we're gonna call the function. That is, yeah, we're gonna initialize onPress event on this button. So here I'm gonna write onPress handle post submit. Okay, so I'm going to define this function at the top over here. So I'm going to say const handle post submit equals to a function. So here firstly I'm going to say const post data equals to the user ID. So firstly let's get access to the user ID. So over here you can copy this piece of code and we're gonna paste it right here. Make sure to import use context and the user type. User type also. Alright, so after this I'm gonna say if at all the content is there, then here I'm going to say post data dot content equals to content. Now here I'm going to say Axios, import Axios from Axios dot post. This is going to be the URL http localhost 3000 / create post, and it's going to take in of course the post data. And after doing this I'm going to apply the then method, which is going to give us the response. So here I'm going to say set the content to be empty again after sharing the post. So yep, that's it. And if at all there is any error while doing this, so I'm going to say catch of error, and here I'm going to write console.log error creating post, and we're going to write the error over here. So format once, and yep, I think that's it. Save the file. Okay, missing semicolon. I think I forgot to add the arrow mark. Yep, I think now it's looking good. So yeah, save the file. Okay, so first let's try this out if at all it's working correctly. So let's add any kind of content. So let's head over to Chrome and search for anything. Let's say motivational quotes. Okay, so let's just copy this one and we're gonna paste it over here. Alright, so if I press on share post, this post should be created by this particular user and it should be stored in the backend. So let's give this a try. Alright, so there were no errors. So hopefully let's go check out the backend once. So here, refresh. And let's check our posts collection. We should be having the first post. As you can see, this is the first post. So this is the content, this is the user who created the post, and we have the likes array and the replies array and the created at post. Alright, so with the help of this, firstly let's get this post in the home screen. So let's start designing the home screen first. So firstly let's go to the home screen and initialize the use effect. So it's going to run one time. So here I'm going to initialize a function. Let's say fetch posts. Alright, so let's define the function over here. Let's say const fetch posts equals to a async function. Let's define the try catch block. And here I'm going to say console.log error fetching posts. I'm going to pass in the error. And inside the try block, I'm going to say const response equals to wait Axios, import Axios from Axios dot get method, and this is going to be the URL, that is http localhost 3000 / get posts. Alright, so firstly let's initialize the state to hold the posts. So I'm going to say const posts set posts equals to use state. Initially it's going to be an empty array because we can have n number of posts, right? Let's import use state from React like this, and yep, let's see if this is the correct spelling, index.js, if we have written get posts correctly. get posts. Yeah, it's correct. So let's come back, and yep, let's call the function. I mean, yeah, we've already called it, and here we're gonna say set the posts to be response.data. Yep, that's it. So give a format once, and let's console.log the posts. So save the file. So as you can see, we are able to see the posts array over here. We have currently one post, and it is in the form of an object. So with the help of this information, we're going to style the home screen. So firstly, inside the home screen, we're going to make this look like a scroll view. So let's import scroll view from React Native, and we're going to make use of the scroll view instead of the normal view. So it's going to have a margin top. So I'm going to say margin top of 50. It's going to have flex of 1 and a background color of white. Alright, so the next step is I'm going to get the image link and I'm going to paste it over here instead of the text. Okay guys, you can just pretty much copy this out. So we have the image with the same link, I guess. Alright, or you can copy this link out, or I'll be sending the link in the description. And this is the style for the view, and for the image we have given a width of 60, a height of 60, and a resize mode of contain. So let's import image from React Native as such and save the file. So as you can see, that's coming to the center part of the screen. So now we're going to initialize our view and map over all of the posts. So I'm going to say view. So to this I'm going to give it a style. Let's say margin top of 20, and here I'm going to say posts dot map. For every post I want you to return a view. Alright, so over here in the view, firstly we need access to one more view. I'm going to write one more view, and this view in turn is going to have the image. So format once. Yep, so this view is going to have the image. So let me just get the link for the image. Okay guys, you can just copy out the link. It's pretty much the same that we've used earlier, right? So this is the source and this is the URI. This is the style we have given to the image. So format once. So as you can see, we just have one post, and we are able to see that particular image coming on the screen. So now we're going to give the style for this view. So firstly we're going to give it some padding, internal spacing 15. We're going to give a border color of this color code, and we're going to give it a border top width of, let's say, 1. As you can see, that's looking nice. So now after the view, we're going to initialize one more view. From here we're going to write in the post content. So initialize this view like this, and over here we're going to have the first text attribute. To access the content, it's going to be post.content. So I'm just going to write that over here. That is post.content, just like this, and save the file. As you can see, that's the content we had posted. So yes, after that we're going to post. Firstly we need to show the username. So it's going to be post.name. Okay, so currently there is no name, I guess. Okay, so to access the name, it's going to be post.user.name. My bad. So it's going to be post.user.name. As you can see, that's looking better. So now we're going to give some more styling to this particular view. Basically, we're going to give flex direction of row and align items of center for these two views. That's going to come over here. So format once, save the file. As you can see, that's looking good. So now we're going to give the styling for this particular text. So I'm going to say style. It's going to have a font size of 15 and a font weight of bold. Okay, and we're going to give it some margin bottom of 4. Right, yep, that's looking nice. So yeah, after that we're going to have the view which is going to contain all of the icons, that is the heart icon and the comment icon and so on. So over here I'm going to initialize the view, and we're going to get all of the icons over here. So the first one is the and design icon, that is the heart icon. So let's head over to expo icons over here, search for heart. So from and design we're going to use it, import the icon family, copy that into component code, and we're going to paste it right here. All right, so after that we have the second icon, that's going to be the comment icon. So comment, we're going to use it from, let's say, this one. Import the icon family first, and after that we're going to copy that into component code. We're going to paste it over here. Okay, and after this we have one more icon, that is the share outline icon. So I'm going to say share social outline icon. So we can use it from icons. So firstly import the icon family into the code, and then we're going to copy it out. So copy this out and we're going to paste it right here. So we're going to give the style for the outermost view, okay, that contains all of the icons. We're going to give a flex direction of row, align items with center, and we're going to give it a gap of 10, and we're going to give it a margin top of 15. So as you can see, that's looking fine. We need to decrease the size of the icon, it's looking huge. So let's give it 18, 18 and 18. All right, yep, that's looking nice. So yep, that's fine. So if it also, firstly it should be the outlined version, right, the heart icon. So it is currently filled. Yeah, so to get the outline version it's going to be heart and then O. Yeah, that's looking nice. So now after that we're going to show if at all there are any likes, or if at all there are any comments. So that's going to come right below the view, that's this one. So text, so currently we're just going to hard code it. So I'm going to say text, here we're going to say likes. We can actually make it look dynamic also. To get the likes is going to be post dot likes dot length, and here we're going to say likes, and after that we're going to say post dot replies dot length. So it's going to be post dot replies dot length, just like this. You're going to say reply. Okay, so I think that's it. So once when we add the comments part, we're going to make this look dynamic. So save the file, and for this we're going to give it some styling, basically a margin top of, let's say, 4, and we're going to give it a color of gray. Okay, so that looks better. Or I think we can increase the margin top to be 7. So yeah, that's looking good. So I think that's it. So I think one more thing we need to do is, if at all in the create screen, that is in the thread screen, if at all I share a post and come and check over here, it should automatically get updated, right? So now it's only going to run once when the home screen loads. So it should also run when we actually share a post. It should also show the updated post over here. So to do that, we are going to make use of some piece of code over here, that is with the help of the use callback and the use focus effect. So let me just get the code for that. So just copy this out, that is inside of the use for. So firstly import use focus effect and the use callback. Okay, so we are doing this because when the screen comes into focus, again we need to call the fetch post so that the latest posts get updated. So firstly use callback, and use focus effect is already imported from React Navigation /native. So save the file. So now when I enter one more post and come to the home screen, automatically without saving the file, we should be seeing the next post being updated. So I'm just going to copy this one and I'm going to share the post. So paste and then share. Okay, let's come to the home screen. As you can see, it's working absolutely fine. That is, the latest post is coming towards the top, and without saving the file, we are able to see the posts getting updated. So that's it. So this part is working absolutely fine. That is sharing a post. So now the next step is we're going to look into how we can like a post and unlike a post. So we have already defined the endpoints. We just need to, initialize the on-press events on the icons that we have over here. So firstly, on the heart icon, I'm going to initialize the on-press event. Right here, I'm going to say handle like of that particular ID. So to access the ID, it's going to be post._ID, right? So here I'm going to say post._ID. So we're going to define this function right at the top over here. So here I'm going to say const handle like equals to a async function. It's going to take in, of course, the post ID. And firstly, we're going to initialize our try and catch block. So here I'm going to say console.log error liking the post. Alright, so inside the try block, firstly, I'm going to initialize my response. So I'm going to say const response equals to await axios dot get method. So this is going to be the, not get method, to like it's going to be put method, right? So axios dot put. This is going to be the URL, that is http localhost 3000 /posts/post ID. So firstly, let's make use of backticks. So here it's going to be post ID and / the user ID and / like. All right, so after the response, I'm just going to say initialize firstly my updated post. So I'm going to say const updated post equals to response.data. Okay, so firstly, I'm going to map over it. So I'm going to say const updated posts equals to posts that we have, that is these two. So posts.map for every post, if at all the post.id post_id equals to the updated post_id updated post._id, then in that case it's going to be updated post, else it's going to be the post itself. All right, so format once, and after we write the condition here, I'm going to say set the posts to be the updated posts. That's it. So save the file. So now we're going to write the condition over here in the near the icon over here. I'm going to say if at all the post dot access the likes array, if this includes the user ID, then that means this post is liked. Okay, else it is not being liked. So copy this out and paste it over here. So this is going to be the heart icon and the color is going to be red. So format once and save the file. So now let's say if I press on the heart icon, it's going to go into this particular function, that is handle like. It's going to call to this particular URL, and it's going to pretty much update the post, and we should be seeing, and pretty much it's going to add that particular user ID into the likes array. And this condition is going to get checked, that is post.likes.includes of the user ID, and if it is true, we're going to show the red color icon. So let's give this a try. Okay, request failed, is it? So let's see where we've gone wrong. Let's check the correct spelling of the URL once. So inside the index.js file, posts and So for this one, yeah, post ID, user ID, yeah, post ID, user ID, and then like, yep, it is correct, but still it's not working, right? So once just refresh the app and open it up once again, and I'm gonna press on the first post that is on the like button. Okay, so as you can see, we're able to like the post and even the likes are getting updated. So let's check for the second one. Okay, so that's looking good. So as you can see, inside the likes array, this particular user ID is present. So yeah, that's working absolutely fine. So now the next step is we're going to go into the profile screen, and before that I think we need to initialize endpoints to get the details of the user. So let's do that in the index.js file. So it's going to be the last endpoint. So here I'm going to say app.get. So it's going to be /profile, and then /user ID, and it's going to be an async method with the request and the response. So firstly, I'm going to initialize my try catch block, and here I'm going to say result.status of 500 .json with a message saying error while getting the profile. And inside the try block, firstly I need access to the user ID, of course. So user ID equals to request.params.user ID, and here I'm going to say const user equals to wait access the user model dot find by ID of the user ID, and if at all there is no user, we're going to send the result. So if there is no user, I'm going to say return result.status of 404.json with the message being user not found. Alright, so now I'm going to say over here return result.status of 200.json of the user. Okay, so format once. So with the help of this, we're going to initialize a function or a use effect and design the profile screen over here. So now before going into the profile screen and the design part, firstly we're going to initialize the function for disliking also. It's going to be super similar. We just need to make one change. So let's come back into the home screen over here, and over here initialize the on press event. Here it's going to be handle dislike of that particular post.id. So I'm just going to paste it over here. You can just look into it. It's going to be very similar. Okay, so instead of like, it's going to be unlike. Other than that, it's going to be the same thing. Okay, so save the file. So now we're going to go into the profile screen and then initialize a use effect to fetch that particular information of the user. So here I'm going to say use effect. I'm going to say const fetch profile equals to async function, and here I'm going to initialize my try catch block. So catch of error, firstly I'm going to say console.log of error, and inside the try block I'm going to say const response equals to await Axios. So import Axios from Axios, and with the help of get method you're going to say http localhost 3000 /profile and then /user ID. So let's make use of backticks first over here, and here it's going to be user ID, just like this. And over here I'm going to say const user equals to response.data. Now let's define the state to hold the user. So I'm going to say const user comma set user equals to use state. It's gonna be an empty string initially. Let's import use effect and use state, just like this. And after doing this, I'm going to say set the user to be whatever that particular user value is. So that's it. So format once, and we're going to call the function after initializing it. So I'm going to say fetch profile. So let's console.log the user value. All right, so save the file. Okay, user ID does not exist, so let's copy that out. Firstly, you can copy this piece of code and paste it over here. Import use context and the user type also. So user type, as you can see, this is the user profile of the logged in user. So with the help of this, we're gonna start styling out the profile screen. So firstly, I'm going to initialize the view that's there. So let's give it some style. Let's say margin top of 55, and it's going to have some padding of 15. All right, and after this we have another view. Here we're going to give basically one more view. It's going to have a text with the user name. So user.name. Okay, as you can see, that is being seen on the screen. And after that, we're going to say view. All right, so this is going to have basically the text over here with all right, so it's going to have a text which says threads.net, and we're going to give the style for the outermost view. So style, firstly I'm going to give it some padding horizontal of 7, a padding vertical of 5, and it's going to have a slight border radius of 8, and it's going to have a background color of this color code. All right, so save the file, and we're going to give the style for this particular view. So I'm going to say style, basically flex direction of row, align items of center, and let's say we're going to give it a gap of 10. Yep, that's looking good. So for this, we're going to give the style. So I'm going to say style, particularly font size of 20 and a font weight of bold. Font weight, font size, let's write that correctly. All right, that's looking nice. So now after that, I'm going to get the link for the image. Okay, so I've just pasted the image over here. So let's wrap this inside of a view. All right, so I'm just going to put the image inside the view. All right, so after that, I'm gonna initialize one more view where we're just gonna hard code the bio. So I'm just gonna get 3 texts over here. Okay, so you can pretty much hard code your bio like this, and I'm gonna save the file. So that's looking good. So now we're gonna give the style for this view. Let's keep both of the views inside. That's the one which contains the image, and this view that contains the bio. All right, so it's going to look like this. So to this, we're going to give the style. So style, flex direction of row, align items of center, and I'm going to give it a gap of 20. And also margin top also. Yep, that's looking nice. So now after that, we're going to show basically the number of followers. So we're gonna let's show that over here. So to do that, it's going to be user dot followers dot length, and it's going to be followers. Okay, so I think currently there are 0 followers. I think the spelling is wrong. Yeah, now it's looking good. So it's going to have a color of gray and a font size of 15 and a margin top of 10. Okay, that's looking good. So now after that, we're going to have two buttons, right? That is one for the share and one is for the logout. So here I'm going to initialize my view. So I'm just going to get the buttons. Okay guys, I've just pasted the code for the buttons, as you can see. Okay, so the first one is going to be edit profile and the second one is going to be logout. So firstly, we're going to give the style for this view. Make sure you import pressable. So here I'm going to say flex direction of row, align items of center, and we're going to give it a gap of 10. Logout does not exist, so let's define that also. We're going to define the logout function first, such that we will be navigated to the main home screen, I mean the login screen. So const logout equals to arrow function. Here I'm going to say clear auth token. Define this function right over here, that is const clear auth token equals to a async method. And here firstly I'm going to say await async storage. Let's import async storage first, or you can get it from here. So async storage dot, we have the remove item method. So I'm going to say remove item, and of course it's going to take in the key, that is auth token. And after this I'm going to say console.log cleared auth token, and here I'm going to write navigation dot replace to the login screen. Make sure you import async storage. Let's write that correctly, and import, I mean firstly initialize navigation. So const navigation equals to use navigation. Okay, let's import use navigation also. All right, so now we're going to save the file. So let's give some margin top to this, that is this particular view. I'm going to give it a margin top of 20. Right, so now firstly, if at all we press on the logout button, we need to be taken to the login screen, right? So let's give this a try. So as you can see, we are coming correctly to the login screen. So I think that's it about this project. I know I have skipped one part, that is the adding replies to a particular post. I would leave that part to you guys. So let's see if anyone could, implement that. So I'll be sending out the code in the description or in the source link if at all you didn't get how to implement that particular functionality, that is adding reply to a particular post. Okay, so I think we've implemented everything in the project, so we have kept it as short as possible. Okay, so I think that's it about this project. So let's see you in the next one, and then thank you for watching.